Welcome to the Vancouver City Council meeting of Tuesday, February 8th. This meeting is being convened by electronic means as authorized under Part 14 of the Procedure Bylaw. And as such, council members may participate in person or by electronic means. If a council member attending by electronic means loses connection during the voting process, staff are available to get you back online quickly while the voting process is suspended. A video of council members speaking, presentations, and vote results will be projected on the live stream when available. And just to remind everybody that all staff are participating electronically for this week's meetings. Council members are reminded that in accordance with Section 14.13 of the Procedure Bylaws, members must enable their video to confirm quorum. Of course, as always, we acknowledge that we're on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people and thank them for having cared for these lands. I look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. And thanks, as always, to our fantastic staff here at the City of Vancouver who are really doing incredible work through this never-ending pandemic, as well as all the regular stuff that we do here in the city. With that, clerks, can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Stewart in the chair. Councillor Carr.
Here.
Councillor DiGenova. Councillor Fry.
Here.
Councillor Swanson.
Here.
Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Wiebe.
Present.
Councillor Boyle.
Present.
Councillor Dominato.
Present.
Councillor Bly. Councillor Bly. Councillor Bly, can you hear us? Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Present.
You have quorum, Mayor Stewart.
Thanks very much. We're going to start with a proclamation for Black History Month. And I'm just going to read a few notes and then I will read the proclamation. So the commemoration of Black History Month dates back to 1926, but it wasn't until 1995, following a motion introduced by the first African-Canadian woman elected to Parliament, the Honourable Jean Augustine, that the House of Commons officially recognized February as Black History Month in Canada. In 2008, the Senate approved and adopted a motion introduced by Senator Don Oliver, the first Black man appointed to the Senate, to recognize Black History Month, completing Canada's position on Black History Month. In 2011, Vancouver City Council formally added Black History Month to its list of 16 official annual celebrations and observances. Oh, can folks mute there in the background, please? Councillors, just check that they're muted. Thank you. Black History Month. I'm just going to wait until there's. Could everybody check that they're muted, please? Good. Councillor Wiebe?
Mayor, it's Councillor Bly. I was having audio issues. I am here for roll call. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wiebe, could you make sure that you're muted, please?
Yeah, I'm muted.
Okay, thank you. Black History Month provides us with the opportunity to celebrate and learn about the many achievements, investments, and contributions of Vancouver's Black and African diasporic communities, even while these communities have endured historical and continuing inequality, oppression, and erasure. For too long, the institution of the City of Vancouver and its elected leaders have perpetuated discrimination against Black and African diaspora communities. Black History Month. This Black History Month, we are honoring Vancouver's Black leaders who are no longer with us. However, we acknowledge that it's not enough to jointly celebrate Black History Month and celebrate and highlight past and present leaders. Each and every day, we should be honoring, uplifting, and respecting the voices and lives of all Black members of the Black community. That is why the City of Vancouver is committed to addressing anti-Black racism in all its forms, including systemic racism. Staff are prioritizing this work and are focusing on addressing the recommendations made by the community to advance reconciliation, anti-racism, and equity actions by working with members of Black and African diasporic communities on an anti-Black racism strategy. I'll now read the 2022 Black History Month proclamation. Whereas the City of Vancouver celebrates Black History Month by recognizing that people of African descent have been part of Canada since the early 1600s, prior to the abolition of slavery in 1834, and have been part of British Columbia's history since 1858. And whereas the UN General Assembly proclaimed 2015 to 2024 as the International Decade for People of African Descent, and the City of Vancouver recognizes that Black Canadians and African diaspora communities continue to contribute to the vibrant cultural, economic, political, and social development of the city, even in the face of the continued injustices of anti-Black racism and colonialization. And whereas the City of Vancouver affirms the rights and is striving to strengthen the full and equitable participation of people of African descent, and whereas Vancouver is located on the unceded ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, the city recognizes the historical relationship between Indigenous and Black communities and is dedicated to support strengthening relations between Indigenous, Black, and people of mixed heritage. Whereas the City of Vancouver honors the legacy of Black Canadians who have significantly shaped this country and paved the way for the leadership, creativity, determination, and future imagination of Black Canadians, African diaspora, and other racialized communities, particularly those who are no longer with us, including Joe Forte, community leader, lifeguard, and swim teacher who passed away 100 years ago this year on February 4th, as well as Thelma Towns, Nee Gibson, local performing artists, and Mel Trick Davis, former professional basketball player and founder of the Catalano Youth Basketball League, both of whom passed away in late 2021. And whereas the City of Vancouver is working on an anti-Black racism strategy and is continuing discussions with the Hogan's Alley Society and others to bring the Black community's perspective into the Northeast Falls Creek planning process, we acknowledge that more needs to be done to establish the long-term involvement and investment of the Black community in the future life of the Hogan's Alley block and other communities to address the intergenerational socioeconomic impacts of displacement. Now, therefore, I, Kennedy Stewart, Mayor of the City of Vancouver, do hereby proclaim February 22nd as Black History Month in the City of Vancouver. Thanks so much. So we're moving on to the plan for the day. Given the surge of COVID transmission and the reinstatement of our COVID safety plan, the maximum capacity of the council chamber is limited to 20 persons. The public is strongly encouraged to listen to proceedings via the city's website or YouTube link, and to follow along on Twitter @VanCityClerk for updates on the progress of the meeting. Video of council members speaking, presentations, amendments, and vote results will be projected to viewers when available. Any comments on agenda items can be sent to council using the web form on the city's website. The link to that form will be tweeted out on @VanCityClerk. I also wanted to note that the City of Vancouver's longstanding commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including utmost respect for all genders. I remind council that when addressing speakers and staff, we will avoid using gendered honorifics and will instead refer to the person by first and last name, role, or title. Today, we have 3 administrative items, 1 communication, 4 reports, 7 referral reports, 20 bylaws, 4 administrative motions, 5 council members' motions, notice of council members' motions, new business inquiries, and other matters. If we do well, we should be done by 5 o'clock today. The plan for the day is to break at noon for lunch, and then in camera between 1 and 3, return to council 1 to 3. If needed, we have dinner from 5 to 6, and then to return the complete the rest of the agenda if we're not finished. Pursuant to section 164-1 subsection 2 of the Vancouver Charter, public notice is hereby given that council will give consideration to amend procedural bylaw 12577 at the council meeting on March 1st, 2022. Council is required to meet in camera later this week. The reasons and authority under the charter are listed in the agenda. Would someone like to move a motion to go into camera later this week, please? Thank you, Councillor Hardwick. Seconder?
Second, Dominato.
Thank you, Councillor Dominato. All in favor, yay.
Yay.
Opposed, nay. Thanks very much. That's passed unanimously. I'm going to go through 4 sets of minutes now. Minutes 1 are the minutes of the public hearing of January 18th, 2022. Any corrections? I don't hear any. A mover, please.
Kirby Young.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby-Young, seconder.
Counselor Boyle.
Councillor Boyle. I'm just going to go verbally since we have a mix of councillors in the chamber and online. So Councillor Boyle, second. All in favor of passing minutes 1, say yay.
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 Opposed, nay. That's passed. Thank you. Minutes 2 are the minutes of council meeting of January 25th. Any corrections? I don't hear any. Mover, please. I heard Councillor
Kirby-Young.
Hardwick has moved with Councillor Weeb second. All those in favor, yay.
Yay.
Opposed, nay. Thanks. That's passed unanimously. Minutes 3 are the minutes of the public hearing of January 25th. Any corrections? I hear none. Mover, please. Councillor Hardwick moved.
Swanson.
Second,
Swanson.
Dominato.
Councillor Swanson, I heard second. All those in favor, yay.
Yay.
Opposed, nay. Last one, minutes 4, the minutes of the council meeting following the Standing Committee on Policy and Strategic Priorities meetings of January 26th and 27th. Any corrections? Mover, please.
So moved, Carr.
Councillor Bly, and I think I heard Councillor Dominato second.
Carr.
Councillor Carr, I'm sorry, second. All in favor, yay.
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 Opposed, nay. That's passed. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're moving to the consent agenda. I have the queue open if you want to hold any of these items. Council will now consider matters adopted on consent. We have communication 1, reports 1, 2, and 4, and referral reports 1 through 7 on the consent agenda for consideration. Report 3 has speakers and will be withheld from consent agenda. Would anybody like to hold any of these items? If you just put yourself on the queue, I'll recognize you. Okay, Councillor Hardwick.
Thank you, Mayor. This would include referral reports?
Yes.
The request now. I'd like to hold report 2.
Report
and
2.
Referral reports 3 and 7.
Okay, report 2, hold, and 3 and 7. The referrals, and are those just for votes, or do you have questions on the referrals?
Questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Anybody else? I see nobody on the queue, so I'll just read out the list again so we know what we're voting on. We have communication 1, which is changes to the council meeting schedule. We have report 1, which is the street cleaning grants. We have report 4, which is contract award of ductile iron fittings. We have all the referral reports, 1, which is 42nd Avenue, 2, which is Oak Ridge Center, 4, which is Pryor Street, 5, which is 28th Avenue, West 28th Avenue, and 6 is the miscellaneous amendments. Can I have a mover?
Point of procedure, Mayor.
Pardon me?
It's Councillor Carr.
Yes?
It's point of procedure. I think I heard Councillor Hardwick say she was holding referral reports 2, 3, and 7, and you just
Nope.
read out 2.
No, I've just read the
No?
reports that were.
I know, but you said 2, you included 2, and I believe I heard Councillor Hardwick say she wanted to hold 2.
Report 2, not referral report 2. So report
well,
report 2
I-
on Canada Infrastructure has been held. You want me to go through the list again of what's?
Oh, yeah, it's fine. I'll let Councillor Hardwick make sure that it's okay. I'm fine.
I'm getting the nod. Okay, so we can have a mover for this consent agenda, please.
So moved, Kirby-Young.
I heard Councillor Weeb first with Councillor Hardwick second. All in favor say yay.
Yay.
Opposed, nay. Great. Okay, thanks. I will read out. Council, I did forget to ask if there are conflicts of interest, but I will remind you right at this stage. I'll try to cue you, but if you do feel you have a conflict, it's important that you indicate it before we begin discussion of the item. But I will try to remind you as I go through. What we have just passed is communication 1, which is the 2022 council meeting schedule changes. Report 1, which is the street cleaning grants. Report 4, which is the contract award for supply and delivery of ductile iron fittings. We've referred CD1 rezoning on West 42nd. We have referred 650 West 41st Avenue, which is the Oak Ridge Center. We have referred a CD1 text amendment for 310 Pryor Street. We've referred rezoning on West 28th Avenue. We've referred the miscellaneous amendments. And that is the consent agenda. Thanks so much. We'll get to those held reports just a little later. Clerks are moving those now, right? So we're going to move to report 2. Yeah, okay, so we're going to move to report 2, which is held by Councillor Hardwick, funding application to investing in Canada infrastructure. Councillor Hardwick, did you have, I don't know, City Manager, is there a report, conduct a presentation that's available for this item, or just questions?
Morning, Mayor Stewart. No presentation, but I believe we have staff online for questions.
Okay, Councillor Hardwick, did you have questions?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like, for the record, to understand how this is going to work. We're endorsing the application, which is understandable, but that we're also directing staff to incorporate the project into the draft 2023 to 2026 capital plan in accordance with the city's capital budget policy upon successful funding. So my question is, under those conditions, what if we don't get the funding? And what are the implications for the capital budget? Thank you.
Reasonable question. City Manager, do you have somebody to answer that?
Yes, Mayor Stewart, I believe we have staff from finance on.
Yes, it's Liz Jones from long-term financial strategy and planning. If the funding application is not approved, then the project would get prioritized. It would be up to engineering how they would prioritize it within their other projects in the capital plan. I'm not sure if that makes sense. So, sorry, I'm stumbling a bit here.
Yes, I can jump in.
It would still be moved forward in the capital plan, but it would get prioritized within engineering's other projects. And I think Jimmy's on the line, and he can speak to how that would be prioritized.
Morning, Mayor and Council. Jimmy Zomar, Director of Urban Watershed, Sewers and Drainage. Thanks for the question. So if this grant application is not successful, we will intend to advance some or all of this work through our UDCL funding program, because this work is part of the servicing plan for the Cambie Corridor, and it's being analyzed and prioritized as part of the UDCL program for that area and as part of the citywide DCL update.
Thank you. And as a corollary of that question, if we are unsuccessful, would the budget amounts that are contemplated, the cost items in the breakdown of project costs, be influenced in any way?
They may be influenced by the criteria for UDCL eligibility. So certain projects that would be funded by UDCL have to be neighborhood serving, and they need to meet the UDCL criteria. So we might tweak the scope a little bit to make sure that any scope of work is compliant with our funding source eligibility criteria.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Weep?
Yeah, question on the Columbia Park neighborhood rainwater management. This is to you, Jimmy. Can you speak a little bit more what this would look like? It talks about disturbed area of estimated to be about 8250 meters squared. So I'm just wondering, what would this look like from a neighborhood standpoint, and how much water would this be able to divert from our current system?
Thanks for the question. I might need a few seconds to get the numbers on my screen, but conceptually speaking, we are up in the watershed in the Cambie Corridor, in the South Hill watershed, and the intent of this project is to hold water back and infiltrate it into the ground to the highest extent possible, using the public right-of-way and Columbia Park as part of these services to turn them into what we call a sponge park and a blue-green system. And we are looking at a multitude of options that would increase emphasis of absorption either in the street right of way or in the park. And we're bringing these options to the community as part of our structured conceptual design process. And this project will be coming to kind of the capital planning process as it evolves.
Yeah, no,
So there may be cases where the park will be taking on a big burden in terms of water management, but there may be options where the street right of way will do that.
That's really exciting. And is this part of the larger Little Mountain Big River project that was contemplated in Van Plan? Yeah, okay.
It coincides with the park boards and the Van Plan kind of alignment for water management in that catchment.
Beautiful. Thank you. This is exciting. Thank you. I will be supportive.
Councillor Kirby-Young, questions?
Yeah, thank you. I have a follow-up question, and I know that there were numbers sent in advance on this. And I know it's a funding application, so the report's sort of administrative, but for residents that aren't as familiar with the facility that's in the park, I wonder if you could just kind of explain in sort of day-to-day terms for people, sort of the non tech speak of what the facility in the park would actually do and how it connects into the gray green infrastructure and the traditional sewer separation.
Absolutely. So there may be various ways the park can take on a water management function. It could be a surface treatment where it could be an engineered wetland that just takes stormwater from the park and the street right of way adjacent and holds it as a storage. There may be other solutions that would actually infiltrate the water into the ground, like a bioswale, or in the more kind of engineered form, it could be a storage tank, which could be underground for stormwater that then would trickle the water into the system once the major storm event has passed. It could also be a combination of those three. And as I said, that is all dependent on how much we can manage also in the right of way in the form of linear green infrastructure as well.
And sort of follow up to that, can you explain, because I know council supported the motion 2 years ago in terms of expediting the sewer separation, and we also committed to sort of a combination of that and sort of the gray green infrastructure. Can you draw the connection between the benefit of having the bioswale or having the water capture and having it trickling into the system to our sewer separation and our existing sewer infrastructure? Why is that beneficial?
Absolutely. Sewer separation is really important to get rainwater out of the sanitary pipes. It does come with a disadvantage when it's being done incrementally, in that when you're separating, you're now sending more water into the pipes and you're conveying it downstream faster. Whereas when you don't have combined pipes, you have a lot more ponding and pooling, meaning you're holding water back naturally in the watershed. So accelerating separation upstream actually sends more water downstream and causes more flood risks at major bottlenecks that may not actually be facing growth, and puts a larger risk to areas that may not be actually ready for it. It also hastens major upgrades that could be up to 10 times the cost of the acceleration of separation upstream. So it really needs to be done in a thoughtful way. So coupling green infrastructure with separation allows us to hold water back while advancing separation. And it also obviously addresses elements such as benefits like naturalized system, increased biodiversity, and stormwater treatment, because green infrastructure captures pollutants in the stormwater.
Okay, and then sort of last point on that too is in terms of topography, can you any sort of linkage and explanation? Because I know some people say, well, the Oak Ridge area and Queen Elizabeth Park and that sort of neighborhood is one of the higher points in Vancouver, and so is there, the report mentions, mitigates risk of flooding, for example. So is it in the area? Is it the downstream effects of that? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest risk of flooding would be further downstream, closer to the Fraser River, which is areas that will be actually facing compounding pressures of flooding between the river, sea level rise, various events that would compound the pressures up on the coastal point, as well as critical infrastructure like BC Hydro Station down in Marine Landing, Marpole Transit Center, the city's Manitoba yards. So our effort is to maximize infiltration upstream to kind of hold that water and kind of relieve pressures downstream and defer major infrastructure upgrades down there, including flood structures.
Thank you. It's really helpful. I think people are interested to learn about this, so it was an opportunity to highlight that. Thank you.
Thanks so much. That's it for questions. Can I have somebody move the, thank you, Councillor Weeb. You have another seconder, please.
Councillor Kirby-Young.
Thank you. All in favor of adopting the report, say yay.
Yay.
Any opposed, nay. Great, that has passed. Thank you so much. We are on to, we have a speaker for enabling quadricycle tours in Vancouver. Apparently we have Shane Zahar, who has registered to be here in person. Oh, morning. Just over, nope. Sorry, here you go.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming in. You have up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I just really wanted to come in and introduce myself. My name's Shane Zahar. I'm one of the co-owners of Brew Bike Tours, and we're just actually really excited to get going in the city of Vancouver. I know we have some great destinations, and this is going to be great for a lot of tourists and locals alike. That's really all I wanted to say.
Okay, great. Thank you. You do have a question from Councillor Weeb, though. Councillor.
Sure.
Yeah, can you talk, coming out of COVID, how this could support some of the businesses here in Vancouver and how this could be kind of one of those opportunities we see of building back better? Can you talk about how this will kind of allow smaller businesses and people to experience different smaller neighborhoods they might not normally get out to?
Yeah, definitely. We basically run our business to help other businesses. So we get paid to do the tour, and then we take tourists, locals alike, to different destinations that we feel that they're going to enjoy. We usually do 3 different tours, so they can pick the tour that they want to do. If they want to do like a historic Vancouver one, they can learn a little bit about Vancouver. If they're interested in doing a brewery tour, we do that. And we also do like coffee tours. So basically, we're bringing people to spend money at their local establishments and try and get people back out and enjoying the city of Vancouver.
What are you looking to do?
We're looking at East Vancouver, and we're also looking at Olympic Village.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby-Young has questions for you. She's participating virtually, so you won't see her, but Councillor Kirby-Young, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. How long have you been operating now?
So my co-owner owns Smile Cycle Tours up in Kelowna, and he's been running it now for 5 years. We've been running Brew Bike Tour in Richmond. We only ran in 2019 due to COVID. We weren't able to run in 2020 and 2021. So we're really excited to get going this year.
And when did you first kind of bring this idea forward to the city and ask for the ability to operate, recognizing that there was a kind of a bylaw or constraint to doing that? When did you first bring it forward?
So Brew Bike Tours has brought it forward in 2019. Smile Cycle Tours brought it in 2018, possibly 2017. I'm not really sure. It's been a process.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm getting at. I was curious to understand how long that process was for you. I know that you're operating in other municipalities as well, and I just wondered how quickly you were able to bring the idea forward and get up and running in other municipalities compared to the 3 years or so here in Vancouver.
Yes. Well, the city of Richmond, it definitely took us about 8 months to go through all the processes and change the bylaw. But in Kelowna, I think he was up and running within about a month. We were also approved in the city of Squamish in 2020. We didn't operate that year due to COVID again, but that process was, again, it was less than a month.
Okay, so it's been a long journey in Vancouver.
Yes, it really has, but we're super excited. That's all I can say.
Did the other municipalities take a different process? Was there something different? Because this is one of the issues that we hear a lot about, and I recognize that this is not applying for regular permit. We're having to change bylaws because we hadn't accommodated quadricycles before. But was it a similar process with the other municipalities where they had to implement a bylaw that identified in the vehicle for hire quadricycles as a form of transport, or was it different in the other municipalities?
To my understanding, it's only been Richmond that we've had to do that. Any other cities, they haven't changed the bylaws.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Councillor Fry.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to see you. I know this has been a long time coming, and I know we talked a few years ago now, and
Yes.
quite ironic that COVID would have actually come along and delayed the inevitable anyway. So glad to see this is coming. Now, what else so operationally, what can help facilitate? How do you operate on bike paths or on regular roads? Are there other sort of considerations as we move forward that we can support these kind of quadricycle tours and active transportation modes for folks to get around? How can we better support it with other infrastructure? Is there any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the bikes themselves are quite large. They're about 19 feet long and about 6 feet wide. So we do operate on roads. We don't operate on bike paths. We're too wide for that. In the city of Richmond, to enable us to get to a few of our spots, there wasn't very much parking available. So what they did was they moved a no parking sign from the corner back approximately 5 feet. And then that allowed us to park our quadricycle there for the short amount of time that we are at our destinations. Our tours run about 2 hours, and we only stop at each destination for about 20 to 30 minutes. So we're not at the location for a long time. So they've enabled us to get us a little parking spot there. There was one spot where we need a pole moved over about a foot so that we could get by, and they did that for us. And that something like that might be a little bit easier. There is a location in East Vancouver where moving a pole 1 foot would make it really easy for us.
Okay, well, that's good to know, and hopefully we can help facilitate the growth of this kind of. Now, how many quadricycles do you have? Are you manufacturing these, or?
No, we've purchased them. We have 2 bikes that we plan on running in Vancouver.
Okay, great. Well, best of luck to you, and I look forward to getting on a beer tour.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we'd love to have all of you,
with Councillor
everybody,
Weed.
the mayor and council come on board and have a great time.
Thank you so much. That's it for questions for you.
Thank you.
And that's it for speakers to this item. Do councillors have any questions to staff about this? I got the order reversed.
Happy to move adoption. Oh, I see someone on.
Councillor Swanson, I see you have a question for staff.
Yeah, the Coastal Health evidently approved this proposal, but they did have some recommendations around things like helmets and speed limits. So I'm wondering if staff is considering implementing the recommendations that Coastal Health made.
I'll ask the city manager and.
Thanks, Mayor Stewart. I believe Sarah Hicks is online, so I'll defer to her for that question.
Good morning, Council. Sarah Hicks, Chief License Inspector. You know, at the moment in time, we're not proposing additional helmet regulations as these vehicles move at such a slow speed, typically between 8 and 10 kilometers. They do have a specific exemption under the Motor Vehicle Act. And much along those lines with the speed limits, the vehicles move at a very slow rate and will be on our minor streets. If there are questions about the street proposals, we do have our colleagues from engineering here with us as well.
I was thinking of the speed limits of the other cars that might accidentally bang into them, rather than the speed limit of the actual quadricycle. Are we thinking of limiting that?
I believe that we have my colleague Paul Storer from engineering.
Good morning, Paul Storer, Director of Transportation. Yeah, for the most part, these are going to be operating on like more local streets and, you know, streets where the speed limits are already lowered. You know, as we look at the ability to kind of lower speeds on kind of all local streets around the city, you know, hopefully that keeps speeds down on the sorts of facilities that these will be operating on.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Isnova, questions?
No, I'm sorry. I was prepared to move adoption.
Okay, go ahead.
Happy to move adoption of the report and just say that I will be supporting.
I need a seconder first.
Second, Councillor Kirby.
I heard Councillor Hardwick first, sorry. And so Councillor Deschamps, any debate? I'll I'll move us over to the
Nope,
main
I'll leave
queue.
it there.
Councillor Dejanova, you moved it, so you can go ahead.
I'll leave it there to say that I'm voting in support. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Anybody else on this item? If not, we'll call a vote on this. Councillor Dejanova? There we go. Okay, thanks so much. That's unanimous. Thank you so much, Council, for that. Thank you for coming in, the speaker. Thank you. And we're going to move on now to, we're moving on to referral reports. Councillor Hardwick, I think I am, just 1 second here. Clerks, we move to referral reports next, is that? Did I miss? Yes, but that's where we're next, yep. Okay, so Councillor Hardwick, you held referral report 3, which is the rezoning on Oak Street and West 37th. And you have questions to staff. I'll just put you on the queue here. Here we go. So go ahead up to 5 minutes. I'm just going to check first to make sure there's staff able to answer this, city managers.
Thanks, Mayor Stewart. Maybe, I'm sure if the clerk's team can confirm that we've got our planning staff.
We're doing pretty quick transition, so I want to make sure everybody.
Moving really fast today. So. I think we're good to go.
Mr. City Manager, we're online.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Thanks.
I'm going to reset your timer there, Councillor Hardwick, and there you go.
This particular referral report, the subject of this referral report has been receiving quite a bit of public attention because of the displacement of existing rental accommodation. I know that this is something that has, again, it's attracted a lot of attention. I'm sure staff have addressed it, and because of the controversy that surrounded it in the media, I just wondered if staff had any comments about why they were bringing it forward at this time.
That's a legitimate question. Thanks for that. Within the scope of referral, over to staff.
Yeah, I can take a shot at that question unless, Teen, you have some any particular thing you want to add. It is in alignment with the plan. We did have an extensive engagement through the Canby Corridor plan. It was determined that this is a proper use and a proper SFR. The proposal will remove 7 duplex homes. All the rental tenants will be covered by the TRP. We believe the item is in order and ready for council consideration, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll hear from speakers.
Thank you. Can I have a mover then for this referral report, please?
So moved.
I heard Councillor Weeb, seconded by Councillor Dejanova. We'll just do an oral vote on this one. All those in favor of referral, yay.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, we're going to move to a recorded vote. So if you're in favor of referring, please, or not, please vote. Councillor Boyle and Councillor Dejanova. Councillor Dejanova.
Point of privilege, Mayor.
Yep, sure.
If I could get a vote assist in favor, my panel is frozen.
Yep, we'll have the clerks record that. And that is passed with Councillor Hardwick in opposition. We're going to move to the other referral report, which is number 7, I think, miscellaneous amendments. And I'll just get your timer here, Councillor Hardwick.
A very specific question on this one. On page 12 of the report, there is a change on the lot size. And so my question on this is, where did the lot size change come from? What prompted this lot size change?
Thank you. Given that thank you, Councillor. That's a very specific question. So I'm going to ask Nick Danford to answer that for us. Nick, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just looking up the report as we speak to just get a handle on what it is. I just need a moment.
Yeah, it's 4.4 multiple dwellings.
And so the question is, why is it referred at this point?
Well, there's a change in the lot size change in the document from what the existing is, and I'm just trying to get a handle on why that has happened before it goes to before it would be referred, or at this time.
Hi, Council. It's Cynthia Lau, Senior Rezoning Planner. Just to confirm, there is no page 12 on report 7, but there is on referral report 6. Can we get some clarification, please?
Hold the wrong one.
That may be a holdover because we removed one of the referral reports. Is that possible?
No, I've got it as 7 in my.
The miscellaneous amendments.
You wanted to hold the Fraser Lands one, is that right?
No, the miscellaneous amendments.
Concerning various CD1 bylaws?
Yeah.
In your
4.4.
Councilwoman Hardwick, I believe the report you're looking is on tomorrow's agenda. It's report number 2 on tomorrow's agenda.
Oh, that's a different one.
The number 7 is some corrections to the Accelera case that were staff oversight. It's what the contents of 7 is.
You know, because of this confusion, I'm going to withdraw my question, and I'll leave it there until I sort this out. Thank you.
We have somebody move the move report 7.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Dejanova, seconded by Councillor Wiebe. Any debate on this? I don't see any debate, so I'll move us. I'll just try an oral vote first. All in favor of passing this report, say yay.
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 Any opposed, nay. Okay, that's passed. Thank you so much. Okay, Council, we have 20 bylaws on the agenda. Council members who are not present for the meetings related to public hearing enactment bylaws must confirm that they have reviewed the proceedings of the meetings if they wish to vote on the enactment. Bylaw 4 is for the public hearing of July 6, 2021. Councilor Dejanova is absent for this item at the public hearing. Councilor Dejanova, have you reviewed the proceedings and will you be voting?
And I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Bylaw 5 is the public hearing of June 17th, 2021. And the subsequent council meeting of June 22nd, Councilors Dejanova and Hardwick were absent for this item at the public hearing, and the council meeting stating that they had not reviewed and were ineligible for vote. So, Councilor Dejanova, have you reviewed the proceedings and will you be voting on the enactment?
I'm so sorry I wasn't keeping up with you there, Mayor Stewart. Could you note the item on our agenda so I can check my notes here?
We are on bylaw 5, public hearing of, which was the public hearing of June 17th, and then a subsequent council meeting, at the subsequent council meeting of June 22nd, you and Councillor Hardwick were absent for the item of the public hearing, and at the council meeting you stated you had not reviewed and were ineligible for the vote. So just wondering if you've had the chance to review and will you be voting?
This one I have not, and I will not. This is the 3609 to 3687 Arbutus Street.
That's right.
Is that correct? Yes, I have not, and I will not.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Hardwick. No and no. Okay, thanks so much. Does any member, sorry, where am I now? That's it for absences. Any member wish to hold any of the bylaws for debate, separate vote, or conflict of interest? I have Councillor Swanson on the queue.
Yeah, I'd like to hold number 3, number 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Just for a separate vote.
And you're okay if we do those all together?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Councillor Hardwick?
I have some overlap with Councillor Swanson, so my list is 4, 11, 12, 15, and 18.
Okay. Okay, so we'll do Councillor Swanson's first. I don't see anybody else on the queue. Sorry, I'm going to move back to the question queue. Let's see here. Councillor Dejanova?
I was just offering to move adoption of the ones, Councillor.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to just, we're moving, we'll need a motion then to adopt the first set of bylaws that were held by Councillor Swanson. That's bylaw 3, 11, 12, 14, 15, and 16 and
So moved.
17. Thank you so much, Councillor Dominato.
Director
We have a
Thanks.
seconder. Seconder, Councillor Dejanova. I'm going to move us to the main queue. Any discussion on these items? Don't see any. We're going to have yeas and nays, so I'm going to move us to a recorded vote. Councillor Dominato, there we go. Okay, thanks. That has passed with Councillor Swanson and Hardwick in opposition. We will move to our next round of that were held by Councillor Hardwick, and I'm making sure I get this right. We have individually held, I think it was only a bylaw 18. 4 and 18. Oh, I'm sorry, my scribble is not great. So 4 and 18. So can I have a mover for 4 and 18, please? Councillor Fry, thank you. Second. Councillor Wiebe, thank you. We're on the main queue. Any debate on these two, 4 and 18?
Just a point of privilege, Mayor
Yes.
Stewart.
Yep, go ahead. Councillor Dejanova.
I will be able to vote on 18, but as I had confirmed before, I won't, I will be able to vote on 4 and 18. I just wanted to make sure the one I had not reviewed on Arbutus Street number 5 I would be recorded as not voting.
You will be.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, great. So we have a mover and a seconder. We're going to, no debate, so I'm going to move us to a vote. Councillor Dominato. There we go. That has passed with Councillor Hardwick in opposition. Now I need a motion for the remaining bylaws. That would be 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 19, 20.
So moved, Councillor Dominato.
I heard Councillor Hardwick first. Councillor Dominato second. I'm going to move us to a main queue. Any discussion of these bylaws? Don't hear any, so I'll do yays and nays. All in favor, yay. Any opposed?
Yay.
Thank you. Any opposed? Nay. Okay, great. Thanks so much. Those have passed. Oh, moving right along, we're at the administrative motions. There are 4 administrative motions. I'm just moving us back to the question queue. There are 4 administrative motions on the agenda. The approval of form of development on Joyce Street. Anyone wish to declare a conflict of interest on this? If not, we'll move on to questions to staff. I have you on the queue, Councillor Hardwick, for questions on this item.
No, that's not a question, Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that we were voting individually on these.
Right, we do. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Councillor Bly, question on the Joyce Street item?
Yes, thank you very much. I just have a quick question of staff, and this actually comes from a member of the 2S LGBTQ+ Advisory Committee, and the question is, although understanding the stage that we're at in terms of this being a approval of form of development, just want to reflect the question, which is around integrated streetscaping that reflects the 2S LGBTQ+ intersectional lens. And I just wanted to ask staff if they just comment on where in the process members of the community would be able to see that consideration in the information coming to council.
Okay, we'll try it with staff first. Staff, are you able to answer that question?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Yes, so the motion at public hearing was for staff to work with the applicant and the community to provide and reflect the 2S LGBTQ plus community, and that was done, and it was worked through at the development permit stage. It is reflected in landscape drawings. I don't have those with me specifically, and I'd be happy to follow up later, and so that it doesn't affect the form of development, but it is a good question, and happy to do that.
Okay, that would be wonderful. I'd be happy to disseminate to the advisory committee members on your behalf.
Of course.
Thank you. Councillor Dejanova, do you have a question?
Just happy to move adoption.
Thanks so much. We have a seconder.
Second, Councillor Bly.
Thank you, Councillor Bly. Any discussion? I'll move us to a main queue. Any discussion on this item? If not, I'll move us to a vote. All those in favor say yay.
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 Any opposed, nay. Thank you. That's passed. We're on to Administrative Motion 2, which is the form of development on 150 West 4th Avenue. Any conflicts on this? I don't hear any. Any questions? Councillor Dejanova, I have you on the queue for questions.
Can't take myself off the queue. I've tried.
Okay, I will clear. There we go. I don't see any questions. Someone like to move the motion, please?
So moved, Councillor Kirby-Young.
Councillor Kirby-Young, thank you. Seconder. Second, Councillor Dejanova, thank you. Any debate? I don't see anybody on the queue. Let's go for a verbal vote. All in favor, yay.
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 Any opposed, nay. It's passed, thank you. Number 3 is the approval form of development on West 16th Avenue. Any conflicts on this, please declare them. Any questions to staff, please put yourself on the queue. I don't see any. Mover, please.
So moved, Councillor Dejanova.
Thanks. Seconder.
Second, Councillor.
Councillor Bly. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, yay.
Yay.
Any opposed, nay.
Nay.
We have a nay. Okay, we'll move to a recorded vote, please. Councillor Hardwick. Here we go. That's passed with Councillor Swanson in opposition. We are going to move to item 4 now, which is the item on 8705 French Street. Any conflicts on this one? Nope. Any questions to council? Sorry, questions to staff? Have a mover, please. Councillor Fry.
So moved. Carr.
Councillor Carr seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, yay. Anybody?
Yay.
Thank you. Any opposed, nay? Great. That has passed. Thank you so much. That is it for the administrative motions. Now we're moving to council member motions. First one is for leave of absences. Councillor Boyle has asked for a leave of absence for personal reasons for meetings on June 22nd from 12 p.m. onwards, and Councillor Carr for personal reasons for meetings on March 3rd from 6 to 10 p.m. Can I have a mover?
So moved, Councillor Dejanova.
Councillor Hardwick, seconded by Councillor Dejanova. All in favor, yay. Any opposed, nay? Great, thanks. Okay, Council, we're now moving to members' motions, and we're into the 2-minute presentation and then questioning phase. So we have motion 2 is local elected representation on the TransLink board. This is co-submitted by Councillor Fry and Councillor Swanson. So Councillor Fry, are you introducing?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This came about as some advocacy from the Transportation Advisory Committee, at which I sit as a liaison, and was also endorsed by the Seniors Advisory Committee, which I believe Councillor Swanson sits as a liaison. And I think in no small part inspired by some of the frustration folks have expressed around some of the moves of TransLink, in particular with delivery of local bus service and bus route balancing and the loss of stops. For instance, we've been hearing quite a bit about the loss of stops around schools and how that impacts encouraging young people to be active users of public transit. So this is essentially repeating. It's a request for the mayor to write a letter, and it is consistent with the advocacy that the Mayor's Council have been making, including in the most recent 2020 election, which is for local elected representation on the TransLink board. Right now, the TransLink board is appointees. So this is really to have the public have more of a say in TransLink operations by virtue of the fact that they elect us, and that TransLink is a taxing authority that the public pay for directly through their taxes. So,
Thank you. Is that it? Yep.
Yeah.
You got a question, Councillor Dejanova, up to a minute?
Councillor Bry, I'm wondering how would you see this fitting in with the Mayor's Council currently? Would you want the Mayor's Council restructured at TransLink, or do you see this being in addition to the Mayor's
It's certainly not an either or, so I guess it would be an addition, yeah. It hasn't really contemplated restructuring the Mayor's Council.
But there is elected representation already on the Mayor's Council. Do you not see that as going far enough, or that the Mayor's Council doesn't have enough influence at TransLink?
I wouldn't say that that's necessarily the case, but I think that this is about restructuring the board. Nothing to do with the Mayor's Council, other than supporting their advocacy.
That's all my questions.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle?
Thanks. I really hear the concerns that we've all heard about bus stop balancing. I guess I'm wondering how this significant a change in governance would address that specific issue, and if you see other issues or challenges that might be created because of such a change in governance.
Certainly have heard the critique that that it could lead to politicizing TransLink in ways that may stymie progress, which I suppose could be the case as well with an appointed board for that matter. I would say that one of the bigger concerns, oh gosh, I totally lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry, Councillor Boyle. I had a point that was germane to that and I've already forgotten. My apologies.
That's okay. There'll be more time tomorrow. Thanks. I'll leave it there.
Councillor Bly?
Thanks very much. Councillor, I just wondered if you, and perhaps further to Councillor Boyle's question related to intersectional lens and those interests specifically right now around bus stop balancing. I wonder if you contemplated the benefit of an advisory committee that supports the TransLink board as opposed to reconstituting entirely. Was that a discussion?
It wasn't a discussion that I was necessarily privy to as far as where the Transportation Advisory Committee had landed with this. I was a late arrival to the Transportation Advisory Committee. I will add, and I'm going to catch what I forgot to say to Councillor Boyle. One of the concerns that came up in my analysis of this original motion was that it may unfairly advantage, say, Vancouver and Surrey with larger population bases, and that whatever this contemplated rather than the original wording, had to be more sort of nuanced and recognize that we have smaller municipalities in the metro region that have high transit ridership that wouldn't necessarily be represented by population.
Well, Councillor Boyle, you got the rest of my time apparently. I did have another question, but unfortunately I'm out of time to pose it, so we'll leave it there.
Councillor Kirby-Yung?
Yeah, had you considered other avenues to advocate, such as reciprocally through the mayor for specific issues like bus balancing? And do you have concerns? You know, we have very highly dynamic political situations in Vancouver and Surrey right now. Do you have concerns around that weighing in and overriding a combination of the current elected representation and professional expertise on the board?
Yeah, for sure. And I would say that I would have the same concerns with an appointed board, though. So I think where an elected representation on the board has a degree of accountability that one wouldn't necessarily have with an appointed board, and I think that's the core.
So since there are two mayors sitting on the board, and I believe that you're aware that the mayors have the opportunity to put forth names for half of the appointees on the board currently, so there's an elected influence on who those members are?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. That's my time.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else on the queue for questions. So we have received requests to, this has been seconded by Councillor Swanson. So, okay. So we need a motion then to refer to the committee for tomorrow.
So moved, Councillor.
I heard Councillor Hardwick first, then Councillor Dejanova seconded. All in favor of the referral, yay. Opposed, nay.
Yay.
Great, thanks. We're going to move on to the next item. However, I have to, the British Consul General's here, who I'm supposed to meet with, and so Councillor Hardwick has agreed as Deputy Mayor to chair these items. So I'm going to turn it over to you while I exit the chamber, and I'll let you know when I'm coming back. Thanks so much.
Supporting the legal challenge against discrimination implied in Quebec's Bill 21, This motion is to be moved by Councillor Swanson. Councillor Swanson, are you able to introduce the motion for 2 minutes?
Yep, sure. Um, a while back, several of us were on a Zoom call with politicians from all levels of government and across Canada, and everyone was making moving speeches about why Islamophobia was bad and how we should all work on it, to work to stop it. And we thought about all the precious humans who've been killed and assaulted and live in fear because of Islamophobia and how awful it is. And a few weeks before that, we got an email from the World Sikh Organization, National Council of Canadian Muslims, asking us to support a Supreme Court challenge to Bill 21 in Quebec. That's the bill that makes it so a grade 3 teacher was told to leave her job because she wears a hijab. So Canadian cities are banding together and showing concretely that Islamophobia has no place in Canada by contributing to this court case. Brampton, Toronto, Victoria have already contributed up to $100K each. So I took this to our city's own Racial and Ethnocultural Equity Committee, and they thought it would be a good idea if Vancouver contributed to the court case too, and passed a motion to that effect, and were very eloquent in their support for this action. I know that the city is strapped for money. Our committee wanted a donation of at least $100,000. I reduced that amount to 10 out of our reserves, out of respect for our financial situation. But I hope we can contribute at least something financially. Words can be empty without action, and a financial contribution would be the action. So this motion has 2 parts. The first part is supporting the court case, and the second part is contributing $10,000.
Okay. So Council, are there any questions for Councillor Swanson? You have up to 1 minute per member. I see Councillor DeGenova. Please go ahead.
Okay, but I'm at a minute, so can I have my clock restarted? Thanks. I haven't said anything yet. Councillor Swanson, I'm wondering if you feel that $10,000 should also be allocated to all of the other cultural and religious communities that are included under our official celebrations and observances to make sure that this is equitable and fair, considering persecution and racism and discrimination that some of those communities have also faced.
The thing with this bill, Bill 21 in Quebec, is it affects people who, from all different religions, who wear religious attire. So it affects Sikhs, it affects Muslims,
do you feel it should
it affects anybody. So in supporting this bill, we're supporting people of different faiths.
But do you feel that each of those other identified groups that the city officially supports that don't receive $10,000 should get $10,000 as well?
No. In this case, I'm responding to a request by 3 organizations.
My question wasn't answered, but my minute is up. Maybe it'll be answered, but maybe asked by Councillor Dominato. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next up, Councillor Dominato for 1 minute.
Thanks, Chair. I put myself on the queue to ask you a question as Chair to rule on this motion being in order based on Procedure Bylaw 8.7 sections D and F. D, that we've already dealt with this matter through a motion previously brought by myself and Councillors Kirby-Young, and F, in that the articulation of accessing the stabilization reserve for grant funding is not an appropriate use based on the fact that that reserve is to be used for potential future events in the city, for example, the pandemic. So I'm looking for a ruling.
Thank you. I'll just consult with the clerk and the city manager and get back to you. How long, clerk, do you think we will need for this? 5 minutes? So a 5-minute recess. Thank you. If we are back, Council, and on the chair challenge, I am going to rule that this is in order after consulting with the clerk and with the city manager, on the basis that therefore it be resolved A is not redundant, is not directly reflected in the original motion. And the question in B, that the City Council contribute a grant from the reserve fund, is at the discretion of council. So this is in order and can proceed from here. Thank you. Lori? All right.
Point of procedure. Would we now be moving on to referral?
Yeah. So we have. Well, first of all, did we get someone to second the motion? I just want to check on the.
Councillor Boyle, I'll second.
Okay, thanks. Are there any questions? Again, any further questions of Councillor Swanson from council? Okay, hearing none, and thank you, Councillor Boyle. We've received requests to speak to this motion. If council, sorry? Oh, sorry. Trying to do it from my seat and not from the front is a bit confusing. Then I will go to Councillor Kirby-Yung for 1 minute, please.
Yeah, I have a point of procedure question, Chair, if I might. I wonder if you can just clarify. I just wanted to make sure I understood. I heard you say that Clause A was, did you say in essence that it was new? Because Clause A just asks for asking the mayor to make public council support, which has previously been done. It's Clause B that's new. So I just wanted to clarify. Could you confirm?
Yeah, I'm looking at the motion, the review of Bill 21 motion link from December 2019, and the review of 20, and it does not say this directly that it be made public in the way that it does in Councillor Swanson's motion.
But it says affirm, does not the original motion say affirm council support, and this one says make public? And is that not, and when council affirms its support, it is public? Is that not the same thing? I'm not meaning to be difficult, I'm just trying to understand.
In consultation with the clerk and the city manager, the interpretation that has been put forward is that it is not redundant.
It seems to be the same. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Fry?
Yeah, thanks. A question of the motion mover then. There seemed to be some confusion on one of the earlier lines of questioning that suggested this money may be going to communities that were discriminated against explicitly. And this, if I'm correct, this motion talks about sending money to the legal challenge for Bill 21, not to individual communities. Is that correct?
Precisely.
Okay, just wanted to clear up that confusion then. Thank you.
Councillor Swanson, I see you on the queue.
I wanted to move that we hear speakers tomorrow.
So great, we've received requests to speak. So thank you, and thank you, Councillor Fry, for seconding. And all in favor say yay.
Yay.
Any saying nay?
Yay.
The motion is referred to the standing committee meeting tomorrow. Now we'll move on to motion number 4, which is aligning Vancouver's 2023 to 2026 capital plan with increased climate emergency action. This motion is to be moved by Councillor Carr. Councillor Carr, would you like to introduce the motion for 2 minutes, please?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair. I think we all we know the capital plan only happens once every 4 years. But what's interesting to me is to know that it takes 2 years to prepare a capital plan and 2 years to complete it or to finish up the projects. That would take this 2023 to 2026 capital plan to 2028. It is the most important plan in terms of making sure that we reach the objectives that we have set for this city of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030. There's no other capital plan that can manage that in its entirety. Certainly, staff have also indicated in their November 3rd, 2021 report on a first climate emergency action plan update that the next capital plan, which is this one that we're dealing with, is a significant opportunity to consider CUP funding. I think also the people of the city, us as a council, very much understand that there is an increased risk of many more severe climate events. We saw them last year with the heat dome, the polar vortex, the atmospheric rivers, so that investments in our climate actions are becoming even more critical. And that the more we actually invest in mitigating climate change is going to, and every economist and scientist working on this issue knows the investments up front will reduce the increased cost of adapting to and dealing with the outcomes of climate emergency events in the future. So it's a prudent move to ask us to really look, and staff to look very, very closely at this capital plan and make sure that the money is being supplied for the range of activities, including the fact that in our last December operating budget, we decided to do $9 million a year towards extra climate projects, and this capital plan could easily then mesh with the plans around the operating budget.
Thank you. Nicely timed, Councillor Carr. Are there any questions for Councillor Carr from Council? I note Councillor DeGenova for up to 1 minute, please.
Thanks, Councillor Carr. Do you not expect that staff will already be including this in the capital budget, considering the city's greenest city goals and our climate action goals? Is this not already something staff is considering?
Yeah, Councillor DeGenova, we did pass the motion at the operating budget to have $9 million a year. That was only in December. I think that this shows prudence on the part of council to make sure that any necessary capital funds.
That's not my question, though. I was just wondering, are staff already working on this?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not sure if you know, but
I'll read the staff
working on the
comments
capital
on the
plan.
motion, but thank you.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Thank you, Councillor DeGenova. Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Councillor Carr. I'm reading through the motion and I'm looking at the different components reporting back for consideration with a capital planning list of potential capital projects with costs and benefits, ensuring the needed funding is in place for the $9 million climate levy that council had proposed or had commenced and given direction on, that it go towards things like electric vehicle infrastructure, for example, or advocating senior governments for climate funding. I wonder if you can identify, I know these are all things that council has been very supportive of and we are doing now, to my knowledge. I wonder if you can identify what is new in this motion.
What's new is understanding generally the resilience need because of the emergencies that we faced in the last year. So it is, in fact, emphasizing that there may be some new measures that we have not contemplated because of that. What's new is also the reporting schedule. We found out through the Climate Emergency Action Plan report that we received last November that the public, 90% of the public, are actually very concerned about climate, but they don't really know what to do. So I think the reporting function is
just for time, just because I have limited time. So on the reporting schedule, you're not satisfied with the regular quarterly reports we're getting back on the climate emergency?
I don't, I think that we get those reports, but I'm asking it to be more frequent in this, and also that it would include the reporting on the specifically the capital projects, including very specifically the cost of the project and the benefits of the projects, the GHG reductions. The public is not aware of those things. We don't get those.
That's time's up on that. Thank you very much. Next up, Councillor Dominato. 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Councillor Carr, was simply to ask is how do you see this prioritization of resilient infrastructure being matched with other capital needs in the city? How do you see that being balanced? Do you see this being prioritized over other capital infrastructure needs, or just that there's a balance to what's represented in the draft capital plan?
I think staff are the appropriate people in this case to come back with an approach that ensures that other kinds of investments in capital projects are being made at the same time, and that they can give us a set of options. That's what this motion calls for, is to come back with those options, and to also advocate around senior government funding in a more concerted way. Staff actually added the section B to the draft motion when I submitted it earlier. There's no doubt we need to be putting more money into climate action, though.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Carr.
Thank you both. Would someone
Chair
like?
Hardwick, this is Councillor Boyle. I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much. Second, we've received requests to speak to the motion. If Council would like to hear the speakers, we can refer it to the Standing Committee tomorrow.
Move referral to tomorrow, Standing Committee.
Second.
Councillor Dominato.
Councillor Boyle.
I think I heard Councillor Dominato and Councillor Boyle. Thank you. All in favor say yay.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is referred to the Standing Committee meeting tomorrow. Great, moving right along. Next up is motion 5, improving the effectiveness of standards of maintenance bylaw. This motion is to be moved by Councillor Kirby-Yung. Councillor Kirby-Yung, please introduce your motion for 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the motion is really asking staff to take a closer look at the standards of maintenance bylaw, which is number 5462. And that bylaw governs all buildings in the city of Vancouver to ensure they're maintained in acceptance with health, fire, and building requirements. For the most part, I think across the board, we have very good rental landlords and very good building owners and managers that really do care about their buildings. We sometimes, from time to time, have situations where that is not the case. And as an illustrative example of this, I think everybody's familiar with the extreme cold temperatures that we had in December that went down to sort of -10, repeatedly up to -20 with the wind chill. And at the Regal, for example, as one, there were other buildings, but this is one illustrative example on Granville Street. They were without heat for a number of days between Christmas and New Year's. And in that time, and heat is sort of life-threatening, people can literally, freeze to death in those types of temperatures. And in that time, there were varying reports back that the building manager, it had been fixed, and then we were hearing from residents and from media that no, it had not been fixed in terms of the boiler and the heat issues. So I think that the one point I want to make here is that if a building owner or operator is trying to fix something in good faith, I think the bylaw allows for that. The challenge is when that isn't the case, that the process can result in a long period of time before council can compel the repairs. And so a city staff inspector has to deem a building manager to be in contravention, has to issue that notice, has to get on a council agenda. Council can issue that work be done at the city's expense, for example, if it's not happening quickly enough and it's life-threatening. But then the clock, there's 60 days to do that, and the clock starts ticking. And clearly, if you are in -10 with no heat, again, as one example, you don't have that kind of time. So I'm asking to take a look to see if we can look at either heavier fines or perhaps staggered fines for repetitive or repeat offenders that perhaps are just not, that are sort of not keeping their buildings up to the standards that they need to be. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you very much, Councillor Kirby-Yung. I see we have questions on the queue, starting with Councillor Boyle for 1 minute, please.
Thanks. I appreciate this motion. I appreciate that it most recently came out of concerns from the cold snap, and I know we heard a lot of concerns during the heat wave in the spring too. So I'm curious if that was on your mind in the drafting of the motion as well.
Yeah, it's an excellent question, Councillor Boyle, and very much so, because we are having extremes of temperature on both areas. And I would say, for example, that in a lot of these older buildings, it's not feasible, nor do they have sort of luxuries like air conditioning, but things like functioning windows, right? And access to fresh air would be really important, so that people literally don't overheat in the summertime. And I would sort of put that forward as one example.
Okay, great. I will leave it there and raise that again later. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Swanson for 1 minute.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I'd be willing to move the motion, and I have an amendment that I sent.
Do you mind holding off? Because I believe Councillor Fry has a question.
Sure.
If it's okay, Clerk, could we reorganize those? Councillor Fry for 1 minute, please.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate this motion coming forward. I know that in the previous conversations with staff around these very issues, there's been longstanding concerns around the balance of enforcing the standards of maintenance and then ending up having these properties unloaded because the landlords don't want to pay for that kind of upkeep, and then ending up with more unintended consequences with more homeless on the streets. Have you contemplated the unintended consequences piece and how that might play out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you raised a really important issue, and I have thought heavily about that. I think that one of the positive steps that council took, and I know you were supportive, Councillor Fry, was the vacancy control in the SROs, so that tenants were more free to speak up about some of these issues and not risk displacement or losing their room and losing their home. And again, I'm really trying to zero in here on life-threatening issues. So while it can be really difficult to maintain some of these old buildings, the region was built in 1910, for example, it's 110 years old. I don't think that we can turn a blind eye if somebody doesn't have running water or doesn't have functioning heat, right, or access to needed air. So I think that, you know, with the other steps that council has taken, looking for a balance here on that.
Thank you. That's your time. So, Councillor Swanson, you said you'd like to second the motion.
Well, sure, I'll second it, and I have an amendment.
Clerk, do you have the amendment? Can we put it up on the screen, please?
So this is just, it's got several parts to it. One is to extend the time period, because the staff said it would be hard to do it by Q2, so I put Q4. And then further to Councillor Fry's point, I put further that staff include in the report an analysis of the impact on building closures and evictions. I'm hoping that the vacancy control will deal with that, but it'd be nice if that was included in the report. And also, one thing that folks in the downtown east side have been wanting in the standards of maintenance bylaw for at least a decade is, could we put a requirement that owners put a plaque in the front lobby that says how you can complain, like how you can call 311 or how you can call the residential tenancy branch. The SRO Collaborative did a survey of tenants, and they found that most tenants, like 90% of them, didn't have a clue how to complain. And then the last one is requiring the report, or having the staff report back on the possibility of requiring inspectors to contact tenants after they've made inspections, so the tenant knows the result of their complaints.
Okay.
This is Councillor Boyle. I'm happy to second that amendment.
Actually, I think I heard Councillor Weeb first on that.
Oh,
thank you.
great, no problem.
Appreciate. So, councillors, is there any discussion on this amendment? Oh, sorry, switching between screens here. Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Yeah, thank you. And to Councillor Swanson's amendment, I think the communication piece is really important because that's one thing, and again, using this one specific example in December that we heard consistently, is people didn't know what was happening. And so it was literally a daily thing of checking in with staff and hearing back from tenants, and media was still doing the story because people didn't know, for example, that it was going to take a period of time to exercise those repairs. And so there's just a sense in a lot of cases that they weren't responsive. So first of all, it took a while to actually sort of address it and fix it. And then there was also a period of time where apparently it was going to take a while for the boiler to restart, and people didn't know that. And we also had a gap in terms of, rather than just waiting several days and saying, okay, well, not every room will be maybe back online. There was a chance to ask questions, and I had asked, for example, can we get anything else in there that at least is, you know, fire hazard friendly, but like space heaters or something in the meantime, if we know it's going to be 3 or 4 days before it comes back on. So I really do support the communication piece. I think that's an important one, and that's sometimes where the loop gets closed, or it doesn't get closed, I should say. So just happy to comment on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Dominato.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to add my thanks to Councillor Swanson for bringing forward these amendments, particularly looking at the recommendation consideration for information being available in the lobbies of SROs for tenants. So it's very clear how they can document, identify concerns about their building and maintenance, access to 311, and also the RTB. I think that to Councillor Kirby Young's point earlier is that communication is really critical, and sometimes we have breakdowns in communication around these issues, but I think just that added access to information and transparency that's available to tenants so they know their rights and they know how to have these issues addressed, I think is a great addition. So happy to support it. Thank you.
I don't see any more speakers on the queue. I'll just do this verbally, if that's okay. All in favor of Councillor Swanson's amendment, say yay.
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 Are there any opposed? Say nay. Hearing none, I will declare that passed. Now, Councillor Boyle, I see you on the queue.
Thanks. Thanks, Chair Hardwick. I also circulated an amendment in addition to this motion. And that is, I'll speak to it. I'll speak to it now, I guess, and then if it's seconded, we can move to an amendment queue. As council may or may not know, our standards of maintenance bylaw has a minimum heat standard for ensuring places don't get too cold during cold snaps, and given our temperate climate, that of course is quite important and reasonable. Our standards of maintenance bylaw doesn't currently have any language around cooling during heat snaps, and as we have seen this year, and as we know in the climate emergency we're facing, we are likely to encounter more of. We need to be building in cooling requirements as well for the life and safety of tenants across the city, and so this amendment is asking staff to look at adding cooling requirements to the standards of maintenance bylaw, and to ensure that those requirements align with our zero emission building priorities within the climate emergency action plan.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Are there any questions? Oh, do we need a seconder before we can go to questions? Thank you.
Second.
Second.
I think I heard Councillor Carr in there. So, Council, I see Councillor Kirby Young on the queue.
Yeah, just a comment on this, and I'm happy to support it. I hope that the exploration can be broad in recognition of the age of a lot of the buildings where we often have challenges. That it's difficult enough to keep aging heating systems going versus going in and adding something like air conditioning. But I'm hoping that there could be some flexibility in staff review from a range of things, from providing fans, for example, versus triggering a major, let's say, a cooling system or other type of aircon unit in an old facility that may not be suited to it. And that, I think, could actually lead to triggering some of the concerns were raised earlier by Councillor Swanson, evictions and that if you're doing major retrofits to buildings. And I think the challenge with the older and the existing ones, so I'm hopeful that there'll be a pragmatic look at this, because it is absolutely critical. People can overheat just as much as they can freeze, literally to death and expire. And we saw so many lives lost during the heat wave in BC. So I think this is really top of mind for council and really important. But I hope we can be flexible in looking at the options for cooling, recognizing that we do want to maintain these roofs over people's heads. And it's going to be quite difficult to put different types of systems into the older buildings, both just practically and financially, and keeping those rents for people and those roofs over people's heads. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby Young. Councillor Boyle, I see you back on the queue.
Yes, thanks. Just wanted to speak to that concern to say that I have heard our staff in talking about zero emission building bylaws within the climate emergency plan articulate just that, this balance of needing to make sure that the quality and life safety of buildings is kept up as the climate impacts hit us even harder, while ensuring that those required changes don't displace tenants. So just wanted to reassure that I've heard that concern articulated a number of times already within broader climate and building work. And also to note, I remember during and just after the heat dome, hearing from tenants in a building in Mount Pleasant where their landlord had actually kept the heating system on. And so not only was it hot because of the climate related heat dome, but the landlord had the heat on, and there was nothing within our standards of maintenance bylaw to be able to enforce related to that, because as I've said, there's not any language in there around a maximum temperature and cooling. So appreciate that attention absolutely on both ends, that these upgrades need to happen, and they need to happen in a way that don't displace existing tenants on both the heating and cooling end. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Councillor Swanson.
Yeah, it may be. I mean, this is just for a report back, right? So I think it's a great amendment. We really have to start looking at keeping these buildings cool. And not all buildings covered by the standards of maintenance bylaw are SROs. A lot of them are apartment buildings. So that's really important. And it may be that in the interim, rather than providing air conditioning to everybody, we have cooling rooms or cooling basements or something like that in each building. But this is just for report back, and hopefully the staff can come up with some short and long-term options, and maybe even some building code amendments. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone left on the queue. With regard to this amendment, all in favor say yay.
Yay.
Yay. Yay.
Are any opposed say nay? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Now, Clerk, can we go back to the original motion? Could we see it as amended on the screen? Okay, great. Okay, well, in anticipation of voting on the final motion as amended, Councillor Wiebe, you have some comments?
Yeah, I will be voting in favor, and I really want to thank my colleagues, not only for the well thought out motion, really dealing with the critical issue here in Vancouver, but in listening to staff to ensure that staff's input is incorporated in this, but also with thoughtful amendments from around the table here, and just the support for recognizing this is an issue and something we need to deal with as council. So really appreciate us all working together to support this important issue and doing it in a very thoughtful way. So I will be very supportive, and just want to thank my colleagues for the work on this.
I don't see anyone else on the queue, so can we go to the final vote as amended? There it is on the screen, Council. I don't know whether we need to take a formal vote on this, or can we do it verbally? Okay, well, let's just go with a verbal for all those in favor, say yay.
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 Are there any opposed, say nay? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Moving right along today, Council. So now we will move into notice of council members' motions. Are there notices of council members' motions for the upcoming council members? Please put yourself on the queue. Let's start with Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hardwick. I have one notice of motion for the March 1st council meeting, and that is titled Centering Community Facilities and Infrastructure in the 2023 to 2026 capital plan, submitted jointly by myself and co-submitted with Councillor Dominato.
Great, that's for the March 1st meeting.
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle.
Thanks. I have a notice of motion for the March 29th meeting, which is entitled Placekeeping, Protecting and Supporting Cultural Food Assets and Other Forms of Intangible Cultural Heritage in Vancouver.
Great, thank you very much. Next, Councillor Fry.
Yeah, I have two notices on motion, or two motions on notice for the March 1st council meeting. Number one is assessing vacant lands to support housing for BC's most vulnerable. Number two is protecting BC coasts from acidic washwater dumping.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wiebe.
I have one motion on notice for March 1st, and that is a centralized community non-fungible token rewards program.
Thank you. Councillor Carr. Councillor Carr, notice of motion. You're on mute, apparently.
Indeed, I was double muted. Thank you. I have three motions on notice for March 1st. They are all related to the LMLGA deadline. The first is expanding BC manufacturing and construction of climate smart, made in BC prefabricated wood frame housing. The second is provincial incentives for installing solar PV panels and solar hot water. And the third is training of BC workers in deep energy retrofits and climate smart construction.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Dominato.
Thank you, Chair. I have two notices of motion for the March 1st meeting. One is entitled the Vancouver Civic Theatre's 2021 Visioning Roadmap. The second is a regulatory framework to enable innovative urban activation projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor DiGenova, are you there?
Yes, I am. I have two notices of motion for the March 1st council meeting. I've sent them in, and they are number one, prioritizing public safety, and number two, the unintended consequences of recent policy changes to DCL waivers on affordable housing.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kirby-Yung, I see you back on the queue.
Yeah, Chair, I'm actually for inquiries. That was
Okay.
coming up.
Okay. Well, let's. So we've gotten through at that, and we've got the dates and everything. That's great. So now we're going to move on to new business, and we have one item on new business on the agenda today, which are requests for leaves of absences as follows. First, Councillor Dominato for personal reasons from meetings on February 16th, 2022 from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And Councillor Boyle for civic business for meetings on February 9th, 2022 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Would someone like to move the motion?
Move adoption, Councillor DiGenova.
Thank you, Councillor DiGenova. Seconder? Wiebe, thank
Councillor
you.
Young.
Councillor Wiebe. Council, is there any discussion? All in favor say yay.
Yay.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. So here we go. Council, are there any other items of new business? Councillor Kirby-Yung, is yours is an inquiry, is it not?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you. So that covers off new business. Now we're on to inquiries and other matters. Please go ahead, Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Yeah, thank you. An inquiry through you, if I could, to the city manager. And I wonder if he could provide comment on the status in terms of catch up on the green bin collection in the city. I know that communication was issued that due to some staffing concerns and other challenges that we were moving to less frequent pickup in February, and that staff were working to catch up on overdue collections from from with a lot of people that I've spoken to, quite a few that have messaged me directly or on social media that didn't have pickup since before Christmas time. I'm wondering if we can just get a sense of where we are in terms of that catch up overall.
Thanks for the question. So yes, as Councillor Kirby-Yung has said, we have switched to biweekly green bin collection for the month of February. Of course, it's typically weekly collection for green bin. And that's a reflection of staffing shortages related to COVID, both in sanitation as well as in our fleet maintenance shop, which keeps those trucks on the road. The team, as I received an update on this yesterday, the team's made some really good progress in catching up. We're now largely caught up. And the team is also working to finish the collection of Christmas trees, which was also disrupted by the staffing shortage. So we're still expecting to be back to weekly collection for green bin for March, as we had indicated. That's kind of the current status as I understand.
Can I ask thank you for the update, that's helpful. Can I ask a follow-up to that? Is there any possibility of resuming weekly collection prior to March? Because some of the concerns I hear from residents are bins filling up, or potentially concerns around rodents or other unrelated issues that, or sort of unanticipated issues that come up with respect to sort of sanitation and health. Is there any chance of picking up before March?
Yes.
In terms of resuming the regular schedule?
Thanks for the question. We'll certainly continue to monitor that. We are still encountering significant staff shortages. You know, overall as a city, our absenteeism rate is roughly double what it was this time last year. So we're definitely not out of the woods yet with respect to COVID. But take the question, and we'll continue to monitor with the management team and engineering. If we're in a position to proceed earlier, then we would certainly look to do that.
Okay, that's also very helpful. And then my final kind of point related to that is, do Vancouver's procedures sort of mirror other cities, and are we experiencing higher absentee rates? Because I haven't heard of sort of the delay in collection in some of the other municipalities and the challenges that we had. So I'm wondering, is it because our sort of impacts on staff related to COVID are higher, or do other cities have different procedures where they are able to redeploy from other functions? I'm just wondering if there's any comments there on how they're able to sort of keep their collections going.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. I can't speak to that specific question. I don't have specific data from other municipalities regarding their waste collection services. Many municipalities contract that service out, so it would be third parties. I think, you know, one of the challenges that we had, of course, was all municipalities had was the impact of winter weather. And the significant work that our sanitation staff did over the holiday break on snow clearing in addition to garbage collection. So our staff were working very, very significant amounts of overtime. And that's essentially what we've hit the limit on, is our ability to deploy staff at overtime to make up for those losses. I'm not certain that other municipalities were running as much overtime over the holiday break, but I can certainly reach out to my colleagues. I just don't have any data on that right now.
Okay, it would be interesting to know if there was, for example, the contracting out piece, if they didn't see downtime and that aligned with the municipalities, or if there are any patterns there. But I really appreciate the perspective, because I'm getting asked about it a lot, so it's helpful to have the information. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. On to Councillor Carr.
Yes, thanks so much, Chair. I have two matters. One matter, one inquiry that I'd like to inform Council of. My other matter is related to the role that I play as your liaison, or the city's liaison, to the Zero Emissions Innovation Center, ZEEC, to inform you that on January the 31st, the last day of January, we received our endowment from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and that endowment is $21,298,827. It is an endowment. It will be used to get the programs going, but there is an expectation that we will actually be raising money as well, so that we keep the endowment intact, and money flows in and out as we move forward with different projects. So it's a big move. It was a lot of work to do that. And, you know, I think the whole board is extremely excited about the opportunities that it now unleashes. My second is an inquiry to the city manager through you, Chair, and that is regarding Fortis's application. Fortis BC application to the BC Utilities Commission to connect new residential dwellings with 100% renewable gas. And my understanding is that that does have the potential to undermine our own city goals, which are moving to all new buildings, providing area and hot water heating by sources other than fossil fuels. So I'm wondering if staff have considered requesting intervenor status on this application by Fortis BC. Well, I just saw notice of all of this fairly recently. I knew this was happening, but the deadline is imminent.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thanks, Chair. Through you, yes. Staff are certainly aware of the Fortis application to the BCUC. It does potentially have implications, both negative and potentially positive for the city. Our staff have applied for intervenor status in that proceeding and are working with Metro and other municipalities in that regard as well. But yes, we have submitted that application.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks very much.
Thank you. On to Councillor Fry.
Thank you. So this is in follow-up to some of the direction that Council had given last year in assigning Councillor Hardwick and I as liaisons with South Falls Creek. Councillor Hardwick and I have had several productive meetings with community leaders in the Falls Creek South Neighborhood Association, and the community is eager to begin working with planning staff in particular to set up some of the baselines of expectations, things like clarifying data and timelines, optimizing the contributions of the existing affordable housing on the site, and support for emergent priorities, beginning with the campus of care. So I guess question for the city manager, and I feel so awkward standing here with my back turned to the city manager, but is there a proposed timeline for staff engagement with the community in keeping with the council policy that this be an open and transparent process? And further to that, if Councillor Hardwick and I can help facilitate that work.
Thanks, Councillor, for the question. So yeah, the Director of Planning is drafting a terms of reference for the planning process for South Falls Creek, and that would come back to Council for approval. So that is the first step, and understand certainly Council's direction around the process being open and transparent and being, full opportunity for engagement with the community in South Falls Creek, as well as the community generally in Vancouver. So that work is underway. I can follow up regarding the timeline to come back to Council with that draft terms of reference for approval. My understanding is it's in the near term, but I'll follow up with the specific timing for that.
I'm going to have a follow-up question here, and that is specifically when will that include the report back with the recommendations to inform the formal scope of the council liaisons independent of and as a party to the planning process for Falls Creek South?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. That's my understanding, and I'll just confirm that point as well. But yeah, I do believe so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Next, we have Councillor Dominato. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the City Manager. I'm just looking for an update on staff's work around the zoning and development bylaw around home-based businesses. As we know, the pandemic has really shifted how people work and where they work. And we've had many inquiries from the public about the ability to have clients come to their home-based businesses. Right now, the bylaw prohibits this largely. And staff had indicated that they were likely to bring back recommendations in 2022. And so I'm curious about an update as to whether we will see those recommendations come before council prior to August.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Dominato. I will have to follow up with our team to provide an update on the status of that work, but happy to follow up with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of inquiries and other matters. Just double checking. No, there's no one else on the queue. So can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor DiGenova.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Dominato. All in favor say yay.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. The meeting is adjourned. We will see you all at 1 o'clock in camera. Thank you very much, everyone. I think this must be the fastest council meeting we've had since we've been here. Yay.